And then, of course, got the Carling Cup. Winning the Carling Cup gave us the chance to go into Europe for the first time, and we had some magical adventures both seasons, didn't we? Obviously, the second season we went all the way to the final, but that first season and first ever. What's your memories there? I mean, Bolo, the night that everybody remembers you for was that Lazio game, and there was the volley and a header. Is that the standout memory for you that season?
Well, it might sound funny, but over the years, when I was playing at these different clubs, I always played in Europe. So when you don't play in Europe, it's like you're missing out on something, you know. So to qualify with Middlesbrough for Europe was something really special. The year that we did, you also could feel the excitement with the fans and with everybody within the club that you actually played in Europe. I mean, you actually get to travel abroad and play these games in different stadiums, and you could see that the fans were really enjoying these occasions where they traveled along and stayed 1 or 2 days somewhere in the sun on a terrace having a pint and then enjoying a game in the evening. And also there we did go on a good run, but also for the club and everybody, it was the first time, and when it's like a debut, isn't it? It's not always easy. But I remember on the night when we played Lazio, that's a funny story, I guess, is that Frank can explain that maybe later as well. What I felt is that we had of the day of the game, I believe we played at 8 o'clock, and Steve said to us to meet up at 6:30 at the stadium for the game. So it's an hour and a half before the game. I'm thinking, okay, an hour and a half before the game. You know, normally you always meet up in the mornings and then, you know, do all this stuff. But Steve was rather relaxed, and he called some of the boys, called them in his office just before the game. I think we were 3 or 4 players, and said, listen, this and this is what we're going to do. Make sure that you control the game with the 4 or 5 of you and make it happen. And then when we did win, of course, it gave a massive boost to everybody. But later on, when I moved to Marseille in France, when we played on a Wednesday in the Champions League, Monday after training, we went in camp. And I'm always thinking of that game when we played Lazio, when I think we just went an hour and a half, 2 hours before a game. We went to the stadium and we beat Lazio 2-0. And now I have to go 2.5, 3 days before a game. I have to go in a hotel to prepare myself. So there's different ways to prepare for a game. But with Steve, it was always rather relaxed because he knew he could rely on the players.
Sounds like it was good psychology on it, yeah?
Well, it worked out
exactly.
well.
I think Bill helped me out.
Bill sorted you out, Frank, yeah?
No, it's Bill, actually. I think it was Bill's idea to do that. It's like to take it like a normal game, to not put pressure, because we knew Lazio, if you look at the past and on the paper, maybe we're a bit stronger. But as a team on a night, we knew we could do something. So for me, you know, to take as a normal game, take the pressures off everybody. And during this game, we never felt under pressure, actually, even by them striker. But the way we played, and like Bolo said, they controlled the game in midfield. So for us to go and help support them, bombing forward on the side and everything was easy, because we knew that we're going to get the ball anyway because they were controlling the midfield. So we're never in danger in that game.
Was there a feeling that season, Frank, that, I mean, because we obviously lost in the end to Sporting Lisbon and in the last 16. But was there a feeling that this, I know for the fans, it felt like it was just an adventure to be in Europe that season. Nobody thought that we might be able to win it. But the second season, it became much more serious, it felt like.
Yes, it was serious because we had some incredible nights at the Riverside, and like Alistair Brownlee used to say, you know, like he come back from the dead, you know, like I never saw that, you know. So once you can do it, but twice in a row, so it was incredible.
The comeback kings.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Mendy. Unfortunately, I think you played your last game in Europe, and that's in Basel. Am I right in thinking? And then I think you got injured soon after that, and you weren't able. I mean, you'd have been almost nailed on to play in the UEFA Cup final. Otherwise, if you hadn't been injured, I mean, do you feel like you look back and think what might have been for you in that one?
Yeah, of course. I'm very unfortunate to get injured a few weeks before the final or a month, something like that. I was very, very disappointed because after playing the Carling Cup final, Europe, and back to a European final would have been great. Would have been tough anyway because Sevilla was actually had an excellent team. I mean, you look at the lineup and it's incredible what they had. But I think we still could have put a fight to Sevilla, and of course, just the fact of playing another final with Boro would have been unbelievable. I was there on the stands watching the game. I was really with the team all the time. In terms of the line, our lineup wasn't our usual. There were some players also missing, which didn't help. Like we said in the Carling Cup, everything seemed to be in place in order to prepare and to get into the game. I think for that one, it was the opposite. It felt a bit like we weren't doing the things in order to be ready for that type of game and playing against a team like Sevilla, which they were incredible. But again, I think in those years, which was great from the club and the GAFA and everyone, is getting the right players. I think when you look up the different squads we had, you could, and I think that's what also was so relaxed sometimes preparing the games, because they had experienced players. They've played massive games in their careers. They were professional. They were responsible, so they could rely on us anytime. And I think that's why they did, and they knew how to play with that in many games and different occasions. We were a team that we could play against anyone. We beat Chelsea, Man United, Roma. So great teams because we had incredible players that could play football. And I think that was the key of the success of Boro in those years.
I've got to put something to all three of you here on this one, which is something that Gareth Southgate has said about that team. And he says that there were some fantastic players in that team, but he said we were a better cup team than we were a league team. He said because on paper maybe we should have done better in the league than we actually did. Olo, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the thing is, what you see if you want to go somewhere in the league, you need obviously consistency, because the league is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and of course we were able to fire ourselves up for a single game. That's maybe why you should say we're more of a league team. A cup team. But also what you see is that if you want to do something special in the league, you need to have a lot of quality also in depth within your squad, because when you miss out on certain players, I think that's more the problem we had, where, for example, if Mendy was out for quite some time, it was hard to replace. It was really hard to replace him. And if you look at the top 4, top 5 teams, they can replace them for like. And that's something that we couldn't. If you see the squad we had, if you look at the players we've had, we had a lot of quality in there. And I do agree that maybe at times we could have played also a better sort of football. But that's all in hindsight, of course. I think where you could say that we had players that when they were at Boro, they also were eager to prove themselves, eager to make a difference. Funny enough, as you mentioned, Lazio. I mean, Mendy has a past with Lazio, but I nearly signed for Lazio, but in the end, they couldn't come up with the bank guarantee, so the deal didn't go through. But I already was ready to get the presentation done. So for me, later on, to actually beat them and score, of course, for me, that was another victory that meant something extra. But I think that if we could have stuck together, all in all, and build on the success that we had in those 2 years that we talk now, then maybe Middlesbrough could have made a bit of a different.
Maybe if you'd stayed that summer, Bolo, stayed for another season when we. I mean, I think we brought in Fabio Rockenbach to replace you, and then we also signed Mark Viduka and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
Well, I did play with Jimmy.
Yeah,
I did play with Mark.
Did come in, and then Yakubu came in as well. That following summer, as you left as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing was, for me at that time, I signed for 1 year, and I know the club wasn't happy with me signing for 1 year, but I still wanted to prove myself, and see where things were going. And then all of a sudden, the interest was there of Liverpool that won the Champions League at the time. So for me, to make a move was something. On one side was easy because you're joining the European champions, but on the other end, I had to leave something that I really enjoyed and liked, because I did have a good time, and I believe we had a good team spirit. After the game, there wasn't a lot to do, but we made sure that we went to one of the other restaurants with 20 odd people, you know, the wives and kids. Everybody was there. It was something special. But sometimes, as I say, in your career, you make choices and you try to go for the best. But I did support and try to follow Middlesbrough all the way through. And the actual final was in Eindhoven. And
were you there?
No, I couldn't. But I was cheering like properly. And in all honesty, I know you guys that it hurt you guys, but it still hurt me as well when I saw the game against Seville.
Now, we had a Dutchman in that side, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, as we mentioned there, that we had heard some stories about what he was like. He was quite a character, wasn't he, Jimmy? The intense character. And
we had two Dutchmen.
Sorry, Frank?
We had two Dutchmen.
We had Michael Reisiger, so we'd have three if we want.
Three then. Also George Boateng, eh?
George Boateng, 4. Yeah. How many Dutchmen they were taking over at the time?
Too many.
Yeah, there you go. Going to say. Too many.
Too many at the same time. 3 maximum.
What was Jimmy like?
To who?
Mendy. You tell us, Mendy.
Jimmy. Yeah, he was a character, but I think because he was such a competitive guy and didn't like to lose to anything. So when he came on the pitch, he would expect the same from everyone. I love that from players, demanding the highest, of course, first to yourself and then to the other guys, and it was great. Of course, sometimes too much, because we all have our own intensity, and we live the games in different ways. Sometimes you have to tell Jimmy, yeah, okay, you know, you focus on yourself and I focus on myself. But those type of characters, I think, is great when you have in the team. And again, when you sign not only the player but also the profile of the human behind it, that's what probably makes great teams and winning teams. And that's what Jimmy was. You knew you could give him the ball. You might not get it back anymore, but it would produce something, because it was incredible how he could shoot from anywhere.
Yeah.
I think we were lucky to have him still one of the, you know, probably the end of his career, but he still had a lot in his pocket to offer to us. And he was one of the big guys, of course, in the dressing room, on and off the pitch. But yeah, I like these characters in my team.
We had lots of different characters, because we had, you know, Jimmy, who was obviously quite an intense character, and then the captain, of course, was now England manager Gareth Southgate. Was a quiet, a calming influence, was he? Is that how you would describe him, Bolo?
Well, yeah, of course, Jimmy was loud. Jimmy was present, and as Mendy just said, I had many times as well, though, when he started screaming or shouting, I was like, oh, well, that's Jimmy, you know, just let him have his go and think your own of it. But he did it for a cause. He obviously wanted to win, and he scored many goals for us. He could be lethal. when you give him one chance, he would definitely score his goals. And as a striker, you live for that. So that's why that's never been a problem between us. And then you have Gareth, who was playing from the back. He was a solid character, a calm character. He was a proper captain. I think that he fought for the rights of everybody, not just for the English or not just for the foreigners or not just for the guys next to him, but he was there for everybody. I guess also what we had is we had a bunch of foreigners and a good mixture with English boys. And when I say boys, you also had the youngsters coming through the ranks with, for example, James Morrison and Stuart Downing, and the kids. They did the kids get an opportunity, and we were there to support them, and they could rely on us. And Gareth was also a guy that you could rely on, and if there was a problem, he was there to solve it. He was more of a diplomatic kind of guy, and not the one to shout from the back or to put in a proper tackle and to break someone into just to make a point. He would do it in his own way.
Frank, I mean, I always used to tell people when Gareth was captain, I said, there's one thing that's certain, Gareth Southgate will definitely be a manager. And then, of course, he got his chance at Middlesbrough, and it was tough for him, wasn't it? He got thrown in at the deep end, really. But now did you ever imagine that he would come to be England manager?
I could imagine him like manage a big team. I don't know about England. It's good for him because he's quite successful. But I think when he took the Middlesbrough job, I think it was too early.
Yeah.
For him, it just quit about as a player, and straight away take the team. I think it was too early. But he did his best. It's like Woody at the time. This time, he do his best. But I had two great captains in Middlesbrough during my time in there. I got Gareth Southgate, who was like never shouting to anyone. He was showing on the pitch what to do. He was always good. He was playing behind me. He was a safety lock for me. He was Mr. Safety. So every time I was doing a mistake, and God knows I was making some. But he was always behind me. I could play my game because I knew that Gareth was behind. And the other one is Incy.
Yeah.
Incy was different as a character as Southgate. He was like shouting, shouting to everybody, fighting. But he showed his determination as well on the pitch. That's a good captain. I'd say the show on the pitch. That's the most important thing. But two different characters.
I've got to ask you, Will, what about, the man who was in charge throughout your time with the Boro, Steve McLaren? I know he had a strong backroom team as well, but obviously he ended up going to England with his success on the back of his success at Middlesbrough. But what was Steve McLaren like? How did you find him as a manager? Because he was certainly the most successful manager in Middlesbrough's history. Mendy, what was he like? I mean, you've worked for several managers. Where was Steve McLaren? How did you find him as a gaffer?
No, I think for players like us, that's what he chose us. That's what he chose, the profile of players, like not at the end of the career, but coming to the end of their career with experience. He was very clever in the way he would administrate that. He knew, it might be at least personal, but I knew he did it with other guys. Like giving you time off, go back to your country, take some holidays. I think he understood the way he have to motivate the players in different ways.
He's a good man manager. Yeah.
Yeah, man management. Yeah, like I said, for me, coming from Italy, Spain, and then going to Middlesbrough, weekend off, it was very important having those breaks, and he would administer that very well. Also, I think it was at the time it was quite advanced compared to other clubs in the way the staff room was organized with offensive manager, defensive manager, psychologists. Not only because they had them, because other teams had those, but in the way he would approach training sessions, games, preparing matches throughout the week. I think it was very knowledgeable, and I was a bit surprised that he then can't work in England with him, because for what I saw those 3-4 years at Middlesbrough, it was very, like I said, very organized, analyzed everything very well in detail, taking it in personal. So he would treat or try to treat everyone equally, but of course at the same time differently, because the guys were different and everyone needed something different. And I think it was clever finding that balance within the squad to have everyone involved, committed, and motivated.
Bolo, would you agree? Steve McLaren, good coach.
I think, as I said, it was a good man manager. He, as I said, when he picked me up at the trade station, he sort of already got me on board. As he said, he knew how to deal with players differently, but still in the same way. Bill, I think with his backroom staff, as Mendy said, it was the first time I worked with an offensive trainer, and then Frank would work with the defensive manager in Steve Harrison. Split the groups during the session and then bring them back together. That was something new, but I really enjoyed it. That's why I'm doing it now myself. And of course, when you pick on the England job, it's probably the toughest job in English football, because they're going to come after you, and we all know how it went down with Steve. That's why even more so, I think it's rather respectful to say that what Gareth is doing with the England squad is amazing. You would say that he would be a manager, but at this level, who would have thought so? I guess that maybe Mendy can say the same. I played with Pep Guardiola, and he was a guy that, of course, he would be a manager later on, but would he win 16 trophies in his first 3 years at Barca? Yeah, of course I wouldn't have guessed that. But with Gareth, it's the same. You would say that he would become a manager, but this successful, of course, no one knows at that time.
Frank, it's interesting because you're all saying good man manager, and yet I spoke to Juninho a couple of years ago, and he said he might have been a good coach, but he wasn't a good man manager. But I think that might have had a lot to do with how Juninho felt he was pushed out of the club.
Maybe no, but to come back, to be fair on the stuff, it says he's a good coach is the way he put people around him as well. That was important. He was trust. He put trust in every single member around him. That's why he's a good manager, and a man manager, because as Mendy said, he was like making everybody happy in a group. He taking personal. He said he knew that sometimes Mendy have to go back to Valencia. It is a go for 2-3 days. Go to Valencia, come back fit, come back. You'll be okay. And that's what happened. So he keeps everybody happy in a group, and we work as a group. With like Bolo said, you got a defensive coach, you got offensive coach, you got a midfield coach, and the gaffer who was watching from the side. He picked, the players he wanted to.
The thing is, what they also did with Bill is that they looked at the team process. Sometimes we did those team events where we went go-karting, and you say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go go-kart, I'm gonna be finishing first. But no, we had to go go-karting in teams. So you had with twos, for example, and you do 5 laps, and you have to jump out of your go-kart, and someone else, your teammate, has to jump in. So there's always working on the team process, and obviously that was something Bill worked on, because of course there were clashes as well. I remember George having a fight with Job. No, with Job.
All right.
Yeah,
I remember the one with Hugo.
No, they were having one because I do remember what happened is I was on the list to take a penalty, and when we got the penalty, Desiree Job took it, because he didn't want to give the ball off. And I said, okay, well, it doesn't look nice to fight for the ball, but he missed the penalty. So when we got back in the dressing room, they had a proper fight about it, because I should have taken the penalty. And then the day after, it was Steve Harrison who came into the dressing room. I don't know if you remember Frank or Mendy. And Steve would come in, but he would wait that we would all be in the dressing room. And then he would come in, have a bathrobe on, a bathrobe, boxing gloves. And he would go, you know, he would come in like a boxer, and all of a sudden, all the tension was gone. You know, he would solve the problem there and then, because George and Job, they were like mates, they were friends, but still had a fight, and that's what the team was about. You know, take responsibility for your actions, but still don't forget that where we're coming from, and that
Exactly.
we go the way.
I do remember.
Steve Harrison played a really important role. I do know that. Listen, I know that that's all we've got time for this week. I really appreciate Mendy, Frank, Bolo giving up your time to join us on Boro Backtrack. We're going to finish with one amazing statistic that I bet even that you three don't realise. But that Carling Cup final team that starting lineup had never been chosen before. That was the first time it was ever the starting lineup. And it was the last time it was ever the Middlesbrough starting lineup as well. That team never played together on any other day other than the Carling Cup final. And look what it achieved. It's an amazing statistic, I think you'll agree. Listen, so thank you very much.
That's why we never won anything else ever again.
We should have done it. Who knows what we would have won otherwise. Thanks again to Domino's Pizza, the best pizza place in the whole of Teesside, of course, for sponsoring us here on Tees Life's Boro Backtrack. Thanks again to Mendy, to Frank, to Bolo, for taking us on a trip down memory lane to the best ever time to be a Boro fan. We'll be back next week when our guest is Craig Hignett, another Boro legend. He'll be joining us here on the Boro Backtrack. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.